What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of No Skips, and I am your host, Lamont Floyd. And today I'm hitting you with the album by none other than the artist known as Prince, aka Prince Rogers Nelson, aka the artist formerly known as, aka the symbol, whatever you want to call him, but we know him as Prince. His mama named him Prince. I'ma call him Prince, okay? We're going to talk about the album Purple Rain. Me and my wife had this debate. Uh, what album is better? Prince's Purple Rain versus Michael Jackson's Thriller. Now, when I was growing up, you couldn't be both. You had to choose. You was either a Michael Jackson fan or you were a Prince fan. I remember when I was younger, I had the buttons, and you would go to school and you would see people with the buttons on, and either they were Prince fans and they had Prince buttons and they hated Michael Jackson, or they were Michael Jackson fans and they had the buttons and they hated Prince. I was one of the people with the Michael Jackson buttons. I mean, think about it. I'm a little kid and I'm seeing all these dancing and spinning and moonwalk and all that. I mean, that was the coolest thing ever. And Prince, to me, as an entertainer, wasn't as electrifying as Michael Jackson was at that time. This album is good on so many levels. And I want to give you a little backdrop before we even get started. There's always been this rivalry between Prince and Michael Jackson. You know, Prince is very competitive, and Michael Jackson, Thriller had blew up, came out in 1982. Purple Rain had come out to 84. And Prince, before Thriller, wanted to be in one of these magazines that Joe Jackson created to help promote his boys, right? And you bought this magazine, you open it up, and it was centerfolds of the Jackson Five or Michael Jackson or whatever. But this magazine was getting a lot of traction, and Prince wanted to be in this magazine. And he was mad that Joe Jackson told him no. And so he said, okay, I think I'm more talented to Mike because Mike may know how to do all these different dances from tap to, Fred Astaire style and all this other stuff and popping and the robot and all that. But Prince, his dance style is more James Brown. But he said, I'm an artist. I play instruments. I get it. So he was mad as one artist to another. He thought he was better, blah, blah, blah. So when Michael Jackson blew up off Thriller, and at the same time, Prince dropped 1999 and 1982 as well. And he had some hits on there. He had 1999, Little Red Corvette, Delirious, Lady Cab Driver. He had all these songs, but it couldn't compare to Thriller. Thriller blew that out the water. And Prince was feeling some type of way. So he went back to the drawing board. He heard the rock influence on Michael Jackson's album. Remember, Prince was a funk artist and a little bit of rock. He opened up for the likes of uh, Rick James. He's done shows with Parliament, Funkadelic, things of that nature. So he was a student. And so he said, I got to come better. But when I come, I'm going to come not only as and keep in mind, Michael Jackson released that video Thriller that took the world by storm. And Prince said, I got to outdo Mike. I got to show them that I'm the better artist. So he comes together, and I think he was heavily influenced by Sly and the Family Stone. He always talks about his reverence for Larry Graham, the bassist for Sly and the Family Stone. He formed the group Prince and the Revolution. If you look at it before that, he didn't have this big group. He had people who played behind him, but they were never really featured. But now it's Prince and the Revolution. And the cool thing about this is Prince is trying something new on this album. He's layering his guitars, and there's a little bit of this psychedelic groove and a lot of uses of the drum machine on this album. This album was released June 25th, 1984. So you're going into the summer of 1984. I want to paint this picture. What's going on in the summer of 1984 in Los Angeles? The Olympics, right? And it's a big time, and the Olympics is in the United States. It's happening in Los Angeles. So the buzz was in the air. It was a lot of excitement going on. And Prince drops Purple Rain. It was his sixth studio album. Now, when Purple Rain dropped was remarkable because it was not the same Prince we were accustomed to. He had a new sound, and when he came, the lead single, "When Doves Cry," blew it out the water. I know as a little kid, I loved When Doves Cry. Now, let me preference this. When this album came out, I was 9, 10 years old, and I didn't understand the messaging. Michael Jackson's messaging seemed a little bit easier to digest, I guess. I don't know. But for whatever reason, Prince's coded messaging didn't really resonate with me that much. But the music, the sound, the sonics of the music is what really gained my attention, especially when experienced with the movie. Now, I will say this: I didn't hear the Purple Rain album until I saw the movie. Now, the album was which is considered a soundtrack, came out before the movie. I saw the movie and then heard the album, but I did hear When Doves Cry, and I did like that song. The album came out, and to this date, there's still no official record of how many albums Purple Rain has sold, but by SoundScan standards, and that is every time you buy an album, they scan the barcode, and there's a point or there's a credit given to that artist. There's a royalty or what have you, or to the record company, right? Um, so far by SoundScan's numbers, 25 million copies of the project Purple Rain has been sold to date. Prince gave 100 songs for this album, and only 6 of those songs made the cut for this album. There's 9 songs on the album, but there's 3 songs that was added later. Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, and Take Me With You. Now, Prince usually makes an album. He says it takes him about 3 weeks to put an album together. But since Prince was working on the movie Purple Rain to accompany the music at the same time, it took him about 6 months. And the reason it took him so long was because he had to go in and make songs for the album. Like, for example, Take Me With You was not a part of that 100 songs submitted to Warner Brothers for this soundtrack. Uh, After some rough cuts, the director came to Prince and says, I don't have a song to fit this part of the movie. And the part I'm talking about is when he's on the motorcycle and he's riding with Apollonia. And this is, I believe, after she takes a dive in Lake Minnetonka. So for those of you who don't know, when she did that, they filmed it in 2 different locations. It was so cold in Minnesota, she jumped in there and she couldn't keep doing that. She would have had hypothermia. And it was cold when they was filming. They were filming in December timeframe. Talk about a cold plunge, right? So let's really She had to go to California and they filmed her coming out the water, that iconic scene. And after that, they get on the motorcycle and they're riding through this meadow, right? Now, the meadow stuff, all that's still the December in Minnesota. When she came out the water, that's a different location, different time. But that part of the movie, the director says, I need a song. And he could take me with you. That was the song that was put in that section and recorded for that section. Also, Purple Rain wasn't a part of those 100 songs because originally he had wrote Purple Rain as a country song, believe it or not. And he reached out to Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac, and she said that she loved the music, but she just couldn't write any lyrics for it. She just felt, I guess, overwhelmed or what have you. So she couldn't come up with the lyrics. So Prince still had the music, and it was Wendy and Lisa, the 2 female guitarists in the Revolution, who put that rock sound on it that made it that rock ballad that we know, Purple Rain, right? And then there was When Doves Cry. That's the 3rd song that didn't wasn't also in that pack of music that he submitted to Warner Brothers. Now, when he did When Doves Cry, they needed a single, and they didn't feel they had the one that was gonna take him over the top. Prince said, "No problem. Give me a couple of days." By himself, went into the studio in LA and cut that track, and it did have a bass line in it. He took it out. And when he turned it in, they were like, "What are you doing? Where's the bass line? You know, you're a funk artist. Where's the bass line?" And Prince said, "Doesn't need one." And he was right. That empty space, that's the sound, the sonics of when doves cry, just the guitar and the drum machine, man, killed it. Killed it. Let me tell you something about this album, which was I thought was dope. Most of this album was recorded live. Did you know that? It was recorded live at the place where they filmed Purple Rain in that bar, First Avenue, Fifth Avenue, whatever it's called. I forgot the name of it, but that's where they recorded it. And if you listen to the energy in Purple Rain, listen to the energy in some of the other songs. If you listen to some of these songs and the energy in it, you can tell it's a live recording. You don't hear people in the background. You don't hear none of that because remember they're mic'd up, but it was most of it was recorded live. And I remember when Lil Wayne's The Carter 3 dropped, they said, "Oh, it sold 1 million albums the first week." Guess what? Prince sold 1.3 million albums the first week. The album was so popular that every copy that Warner Brothers pressed up was gone in 3 days. 3 days, it was gone, out of there, right? They had to press up, do another run of presses to meet the demand. Some of my highlights in this album, I really love the beat switch in Computer Blue. I know we talk about Kendrick, Drake, these beat switches, but the first beat switch I can really think of, well, that's not true. The first one would probably be Sly and the Family Stone, but Computer Blue had a dope beat switch. Another one of my favorites is Darling Nikki. Now, a lot of people, I as a kid, I was like, "Who's Nikki?" You know, why is he singing Darling Nikki to a woman named Apollonia? I had no idea why he's singing Darling Nikki to Apollonia. Why not Darling Apollonia? Right? Well, Nikki was short for the name Nakartha Ann, who was the character that Vanity was supposed to play in the movie Purple Rain. She quit and they replaced her with Apollonia. Now, if you look at some of the pictures, you'll see it went from Vanity 6 to Apollonia 6. Even the women had the two women that's in Apollonia 6 and Vanity 6, they had the same clothes on. Apollonia had the same clothes Vanity had on the photo shoots. They just plugged and played, pulled her out, put her in. Now, the reason her name was Apollonia, Prince is a big fan of The Godfather. And if you remember when Mike killed one of the mobsters, he had to go hiding in Italy. And he ended up meeting this girl and he married her. And her name was what? Apollonia. So there's an Easter egg for you if you didn't know that. But Darling Nikki was so sexually charged. Tipper Gore, she bought Purple Rain for her daughter, was 11 years old, loved the song, Let's Go Crazy. Everybody fell in love with Prince's Purple Rain because it had that rock feel to it and it was able to do that crossover. He saw Michael Jackson crossover with Thriller and he said, "Oh, I got the cheat code now." So he crossed over. And when he crossed over big. And Tipper Gore's daughter, Al Gore's wife, Al Gore's daughter, she wanted the album. Mom bought it. They're listening to it. And then the song Darling Nikki comes on, talks about meeting a girl, masturbating to a magazine, all this craziness, right? And that caused so much controversy. It put the spotlight on Prince, put the spotlight on Warner Brothers. And if you know anything about controversy, it sells records, people. Another little Easter egg at the end of Darling Nikki. Now, if you have the vinyl, I have the vinyl. I don't have it here to show it to you, but I do have the vinyl. If you play that vinyl at the end of Darling Nikki, there's this sound and the music's going backwards, right? Do me a favor. While it's spinning, spin it backwards. I spent it backwards. And guess what it is? It's almost gospel. It says, "I'm fine because I know the Lord is coming soon. Coming soon." You don't believe me? Go back. The record spinning. When it gets to that part, let it spin all the way through, then start spinning it backwards and listen. That's a fun fact for you. The song I Would Die For You, when I was doing my research for this project, I went back and I listened to the album, I'm reading the lyrics, and I was like, whoa, I will die for you. It's almost a gospel song. And because he's saying, he's comparing himself to Christ and he's saying, I will die for you. I love you that much that I'll die for you. And I mean, the comparison, in this earthly realm, I love this woman so much I die for you, but it was symbolic of Christ dying for his people because he loves them so much. Now, there was one song in that group of 100 songs that was in there that made the album called, and the song was Baby I'm a Star. Originally, this song was recorded in 1981, and that was in between the Controversy and 1999 album. And that song, Baby I'm a Star, happened to make the cut, which I thought was pretty dope. This album won an Oscar for Best Original Score, and it also won a couple of Grammys that year. But one of the sad things um, about this album is Prince's estate doesn't own the masters to Purple Rain. Now, they work closely with Warner Brothers to help facilitate the release of deluxe editions and things of that nature after Prince's demise or untimely death. But he or his family do not own the masters to Purple Rain. And if you know anything about Prince, this is the thing he's been fighting for. This is why he had a problem. He says, I created this. And if you understand how Prince came into the game and all that, well, you know what? I don't even want to get into it because this is just about Purple Rain. But if you're interested, guess what? You can go and check out my other video. I got another series called Who's the Artist? And so if you haven't seen that, go and check that out. I talk about more in depth about Prince, his life, and all the stuff he had to go through when it comes to his music. I hope you enjoyed this segment on No Skip's Purple Rain. To me, this album, without a shadow of doubt, is a no skipper. And if you think I'm lying, something's wrong with you. Something ain't wrong with me. Something's wrong with you. Okay? Do me a favor. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Go and tell your friends and family what I'm doing here because I'm trying to make dope content, something anyone who loves music can enjoy. If you're really enjoying what I'm doing, let me know in the comments, man. Thank you for those encouraging words because people think just getting on this mic and talking to people is easy, and it really isn't. So thank you for your encouraging words. I appreciate you for showing up every day, every week, and all that good stuff. So until next time, peace.